Refusing to ask for help is not strength. It is a weak and socially acceptable form of pride that is slowly burning you out, isolating you, and robbing the people in your life of the joy of being able to show up for you. Today, we are reframing one of the most underappreciated and most underdiscussed acts of kindness there is, which, plot twist, is the kindness of letting somebody help you. Welcome to the Kindness Extremist Podcast. I'm your host, Shola Richards, aka Brother Teresa. I've spoken to tens of thousands of people all over the world about the importance of kindness. And I am obsessed with how we can bring more kindness into our daily lives and restore balance to a deeply unbalanced world. Every episode, I'll give you 3 practical strategies to create a kinder world, and I'll do it in 30 minutes or less. No fluff, just valuable, actionable content that you can implement in your life immediately after listening to help you actively create a kinder world. There's no time to waste. Let's dive in. What's up, my friend? Welcome back to episode 65 of the Kindness Extremist Podcast. I'm your host, Shola Richards, aka Brother Teresa. And as a reminder, if you're not already, please make sure to follow me on Substack at sholarichards.substack.com. And if you're enjoying this podcast, family, the best way to support this work is to leave a rating and review. Both are deeply appreciated. It only takes a second. So I want to start today's episode with a confession that took me a long time to be able to say out loud. For most of my adult life, I have been spectacularly, embarrassingly, almost comically bad at asking for help. I'm talking about the kind of bad that has me Googling solutions to problems my own wife has spent 20 years of her life solving for a living. I'm talking about the kind of bad that has me hauling furniture up 2 flights of stairs by myself back in the day while both of my surgically repaired knees screamed at me because asking 3 of my friends to come over for 30 minutes felt like too much. I'm talking about the kind of bad that has me sobbing to my therapist about how alone I feel while a literal list of people who love me sits on my phone, none of whom I had bothered to call. And here is the wildest part about all of this. I told myself that not asking for help was a sign of strength, that it meant I was self-sufficient, capable, and independent, that it meant that I was not a burden. That meant I was the kind of man who handles his business. I had built an entire identity around being the helper, the giver, the one who shows up for other people. And that identity had absolutely no room for the version of me that needed somebody else to show up for him. Then, predictably, because of course, I had a season of my life where the wheels totally came off. I will spare you the details, but trust me when I tell you, it was really bad. And during that season, a very wise friend of mine sat across from me at a restaurant and said something that I have never forgotten. He said, "Shola, you're robbing the people who love you of the joy of getting to love you back. Stop making your relationship so one-sided." Wait, what? Me? Making my relationship one-sided? What are you talking about? I had to reflect on that for a hot minute before I realized exactly what my guy was saying and what I had been doing. I've been so focused on being the one who gives that I completely missed the fact that giving and receiving are 2 ends of the same act. And by refusing to receive, I was unilaterally blocking half of the relationship for everybody who was looking to love me. Looking back on it, it is so obvious to me now, but I completely did not get it at the time. If you are anything like me, and given what I know about the kind of person who listens to this podcast, you probably are, you have a long history of being the person other people lean on. You're the one with the spare key, the one who shows up with food when somebody's sick. You're the one who answers the late night text, and somewhere along the way, you stop being able to receive any of that for yourself. So today, we're going to address that head on because asking for help is not the opposite of strength, family. Asking for help is one of the highest forms of kindness you can practice to yourself, to the people who love you, and to the world. You know how we roll on this podcast, fam. 3 parts, 3 strategies, and a kinder world will be waiting on the other side. Let's do this. Let me start with the truth that most chronic overfunctioners do not want to admit. You do not even know how much you are carrying alone because you've been carrying it alone for so long that the weight has become invisible to you. It's just how things are. You know how this goes. You wake up exhausted and then you go to bed exhausted. You assume that's normal because you've forgotten what it feels like to be something other than exhausted. I want to share some research that might surprise you because I think it directly explains why we've been carrying so much for so long. Dr. Vanessa Bonds, a social psychologist at Cornell University, has spent years studying what she calls the underestimation of compliance effect. Basically, how dramatically people underestimate how willing others are to help them. Dr. Bonds and her colleague Frank Flynn consistently found that on average, people underestimate by almost 50%, hear me, 50%, how likely it is that someone will say yes when they ask for help. So let me say this again for the people in the back. We are not off by a little on our assumption about whether someone's willing to help us. We are off by about half. The mental movie running in our head about how much of a burden we would be is often dramatically wrong. So what this means, simply stated, is that the imagined no you've been protecting yourself from is mostly imaginary. People say yes far more often than you think. Not to mention, the cost to them is way less than you assume, and most importantly, the connection you generate by asking is way higher than your inner critic believes is possible. So let me give you a real example. Many years ago, I lived in an apartment complex here in Los Angeles, and one of my neighbors, who I'll call Diana, was a single mom with 2 kids, a demanding job, and for years, she'd been carrying all of it alone. When I gently asked her, because it really wasn't any of my business, why she did not ask her friends, her sister, her coworkers, or her church community for occasional help, she said something I have heard countless times in different words. I don't want to be a burden. And then she took it one step further, and then she said, besides, no one really say yes anyway, not in a real way. They might be polite about it, but they wouldn't really actually want to do it. So Diana was 100% wrong, and the research bears that out. But she was so confident in her belief that nobody would help her that she stopped asking entirely. How sad is that? Even worse, many of us are doing the exact same thing, and we're burning ourselves into the ground because of a story that isn't even true. So here is the first kindness strategy of this episode, and this is going to get gangster. I'm going to rip off the Band-Aid to start this episode. I want you to do what I call the self-reliance inventory. So here's how this works. Get out a sheet of paper and across the top, write the following 4 categories. 1, physical tasks. 2, emotional load. 3, decisions I am making alone. And 4, things I am stuck on. Got your 4 categories written down? Okay, good. Let's get to it. So first, under physical tasks, write down every concrete thing that you are doing yourself that someone else could realistically help with. Yard work, house projects, the kids' sports practice logistics, caregiving for an aging parent, errands, meal prep, stuff like that. Second, under emotional load, write down every emotional burden that you are holding alone. A grief you've not told anyone about, a fear about your marriage, a worry about your child, a weight you carry from work that you do not feel like you can bring home, a debt you fear that you can't repay, or even a loneliness you would never admit to. Third, under decisions that I'm making alone, write down every important decision you are currently in the middle of that you have not run by anyone. A career move, a money decision, a medical question, a parenting concern. And finally, fourth, under things I am stuck on, write down every project, task, or problem that's been sitting on your plate for longer than 2 weeks because you cannot figure out how to move it forward. Okay, now look at the page. Sit with it. Notice that you've probably written down somewhere between 15 and 40 separate things that you're carrying by yourself. For real, my friend, that alone should be enough for you to take pause. And as we already mentioned, most of the things on your list, someone in your life would be honored to help you with if you would just ask. Which leads me nicely to the next step of this process. Go back through your list, item by item, and next to each one, write a name. Who could realistically help with this one? The retired neighbor who keeps mentioning that he's bored? Your sister who's great with money? The friend who keeps saying, let me know if you need anything, and who, by the way, actually meant it? And do not worry yet about how to make the ask or what to say. That's where we're going in part 2 of this episode. Right now, your only job is to connect each weight on the page to a human being who could help you carry it. And if the same 3 or 4 names keep showing up, that is not a coincidence, family. Those are your people. Now, before we move on, though, I want to speak directly to the person whose pen just froze, because some of you, when it was time to write names, you came up empty. And if you're new to your city, or maybe your closest relationships have drifted or ended, maybe you've been the strong one for so long that nobody even knows that you're struggling. If that is you, please hear me on 2 very important things. First, a blank name column is not a verdict on your worth. It is information. It's the page telling you that your support system needs building, and it often got thin because you spent years convincing everyone that you did not need one. And second, the names do not need to come from your inner circle. Remember Dr. Bond's research. People say yes far more than we would ever predict, including the people we barely know. The acquaintance, the coworker, the neighbor that you only wave to. For some items, the right name is not even a friend at all, by the way. It could be a therapist, for that emotional load that you're dealing with, a support group of people carrying the same thing, faith community, an online community walking the same road, write those down too. They count. And if the most honest thing that you're right next to an item is someone I have not met yet, then write exactly that. Because that is not a failure, my friend. This is the beginning of your to-do list. Now remember, and most importantly, the self-reliance inventory is most powerful when you do it written on paper with a pen, not in your head. The page does not lie. It shows you in black and white exactly how much you've been carrying. And once you've seen the page, you cannot unsee it. That is the moment the work actually begins. Let's say you've done the inventory, you know what you're carrying alone. The natural next question is, okay, so how do I actually ask? And here's where most of us, even when we work up the nerve, manage to sabotage the ask before it even leaves our mouth. Most of us, when we finally work up the nerve to ask for help, we ask in the worst possible way. We say, hey, let me know if there's anything I can do for you, except in reverse. We say, if you have time, maybe, I don't know, would you possibly be available at some point? No pressure, totally fine if you're not. But if you could, that'd be great, I guess. If you're free, I don't know, are you free? Maybe, kind of. By the end of the sentence, the person we're asking has no idea what we're asking, when we're asking for it, or whether we even really want it. And so they default to a vague, kind-sounding non-response, and we go away convinced that no one wants to help us. Dr. Heidi Grant Halverson, a social psychologist who has written extensively about the science of asking for help, has drawn together clear, research-based principles about what makes an ask more likely to work. In her book, Reinforcements: How to Get People to Help You, she lays out a foundational principle that I really want you to hold on to. People want to help, but they need to know what helping looks like. Vague asks produce vague responses. Specific asks produce specific responses. And the more specific you can be about when, what, and how, the more likely the person you're asking can actually say yes. So let me give you a personal example that happens to me often. Every now and then, and most often on LinkedIn, I'll get someone who slides into my DMs with this dreaded request. Hey man, I'd love to schedule some time with you to pick your brain. Pick my brain? First of all, there's so many things wrong with this request, but for the purposes of making my point, here's the huge glaring issue. The request to pick someone's brain is vague as hell. What does that even mean? Are you asking for help? If so, help with what exactly? Podcasting? Public speaking? Parenting moody teenagers? Something else? I have no idea because all I got was, hey man, let me pick your brain. If nothing else, remember this. Vague requests only increase the likelihood of you being ignored because you're making the request unnecessarily confusing. As the iconic line in the movie Jerry Maguire once said, help me help you. And it starts by asking for help clearly and specifically. So here's the second kind of strategy of this episode. I want you to do what I call the specific ask protocol. Here's how this works. So every effective ask has 4 components. And if you're missing any one of them, it will trip us up. The 4 components are 1, a specific ask, 2, a specific time frame, 3, a specific person, and 4, a specific way out. So for example's sake, let's say I have a home improvement product that you need your friend Jimmy's help with. First, the specific ask, not, can you help me with the house? But instead, can you help me hang 3 shelves in the living room? The brain of the person you're asking needs a concrete picture of what they're agreeing to. And as mentioned, vagueness is the enemy of yes. Second, the specific time frame, not sometime soon, but this Saturday from 10 to noon. An open-ended ask requires the other person to do the work of figuring out when. A clear, specific time frame makes the math easy. Third is the specific person, not a group text to 7 friends hoping that one of them volunteers, but a direct one-on-one ask of the one person you actually want to ask. If you text a group of people, each person will assume someone else in the group will step up so they won't have to. Direct asks produce direct answers. And fourth is a specific way out. Do not skip this because this is the part that makes the whole thing humane. Always include a graceful exit. For example, hey, if this weekend doesn't work, no worries at all. I'll figure out something else. That phrase does not weaken the ask. It strengthens it because now the person knows they can say no without damaging the relationship, which paradoxically makes it easier for them to say yes to you. Put those 4 together and you get something like this. Hey, Jimmy, I'm putting up 3 shelves in the living room this Saturday from 10 to noon. Would you be willing to come and help me hold them in place while I drill? If you're busy, totally cool, just forget I'd ask. That's a clean ask, specific task, specific time frame, specific person, specific way out. And an ask that's structured like that will dramatically increase the odds of Jimmy saying yes. One last nuance, because I think this is really important. If your ask is emotional rather than logistical, if what you really need is for someone to listen, not for you to do something, you have to name that explicitly. That version could sound something like this. Hey, Jimmy, I have something heavy that I'm sitting with. Could I just talk through it for 10 minutes while you listen? You don't have to solve anything. I just need not to be alone in it right now. That kind of ask tells your friend exactly what mode to be in, so they're not anxiously trying to come up with advice that you actually don't even want. Hey, fellow kindness extremists, it's me, Shola. If you're picking up what I'm putting down, if you're mowing what I'm growing, if you're smelling what I'm stepping in. Okay, I'll stop. If you're enjoying what you're listening to so far, I would love it if you would take a moment to hit the subscribe button and leave a rating and a review. Those incredibly kind acts go so far in helping me to reach as many people as possible who will join the movement to actively create a kinder world. I appreciate you so much, my friend. Okay, let's get back to the episode. Okay, my friend, here's the part where most people drop the ball when it comes to asking for help. You can ask for help in the most beautifully specific way possible and still completely sabotage yourself when somebody actually shows up to give it. Let me describe the move that I'm talking about, because if you do this, you're going to recognize yourself in it. So get this. Someone comes over to help with the thing that you asked them to help with. Within 30 seconds of them arriving, you are already trying to do the thing yourself. You jump in, you take over, you say, oh, you know what? Don't even worry about it. I got it. I shouldn't even ask you to come over. I'm so sorry. You then start serving them snacks. You start asking them how they're doing. You make their visit about them. You absolutely refuse to let them help. And then later, you tell yourself the lie that nobody really helps you, that you always end up having to do it alone anyway, that asking for help isn't even worth it. Family, you did not let them help. You asked them to come, and then you took the help away. And I want to tell you why this happens, because I think it matters more than the behavior itself. Most chronic overfunctioners come from a story where somewhere in their childhood, they figured out that being needed was maybe safer than being needy. Maybe a parent was unreliable. Maybe a parent was overwhelmed. Maybe being the helper was the only role available in the family system that got you any positive attention. Whatever it was, you learned to make yourself useful, and you learned that asking was dangerous. That was a brilliant survival adaptation in that environment. But that adaptation is no longer serving you in the life you're living now. I will share my own version of this because I have lived it. Let me tell you, about 20 years ago, at this point, I was living alone and I just had knee surgery. It was so tough for me. I was in a lot of pain and I couldn't do anything effectively on my own. Needless to say, I needed help badly. My girlfriend at the time, who is now my lovely wife, kept trying to help me, but after a few minutes, I would predictably try to handle the situation on my own. Then one time, she really sat me down and made me accept her help. I mean, actually firmly receive it, not just nominally accept it while taking the work back from her. Family, I was so uncomfortable that I couldn't stand it. She told me to sit on the couch while she handled the thing that I'd asked her to handle. Sitting on that couch while somebody else did the work was, no exaggeration, one of the hardest 20 minutes I've ever experienced. Every cell in my body wanted to get up and help, and I had to grit my teeth during the receiving. But by the end of it, I had a small, real experience of what it feels like to actually be cared for, and not to be the one doing all the caring. I know the simple story may sound silly to you, because it does to me looking back on it now, but that experience changed me. Here's the thing, receiving help is how you build a life full of those experiences instead of avoiding them. So here's my third kindness strategy of the episode. I want you to do what I call the receiving practice. Here's how this works. The next time you ask for help and someone shows up to give it, I want you to do 3 things. First, name the discomfort to yourself. Say internally, I'm about to feel really uncomfortable receiving this. That is okay. I'm not going to act on the discomfort. I'm going to let them help. Second, sit on your hands, literally if you need to. When the urge rises to jump in and take over, redirect your hands somewhere. Hold a coffee cup, fold a towel that does not need to be folded. Whatever you need to do to keep yourself from grabbing the drill or the spatula or the spreadsheet out of the other person's hands, do it. And then third, when they leave, say thank you and stop there. Do not over-explain. Do not make a joke about owing them. Do not prepay them with a future favor. A clean thank you is the most perfect, respectful response. It says, I trust the love you just gave me. I'm not going to flinch from it. I'm going to receive it. When somebody helps you, they're not doing it because they're pathetic. They're doing it because they love you, and love needs somewhere to land. If you refuse to be a landing pad for their love, you're not being humble. You're not being strong. You're being foolish. Rugged individualism is the quickest path to an inevitable nervous breakdown that could possibly land you on the 5 p.m. local news. And one more thing, because I cannot help myself. Saw what I did there? Cannot help myself. Sorry. Dad joke. Anyway, the next time somebody you love asks you for help, watch how good it feels to be the one who gets to show up. Notice the lift in your chest. Notice how privileged you feel that they trusted you. That feeling is exactly the feeling that you're denying everybody in your life every single time you refuse to ask for help. Stop making your relationships so one-sided. Let it move both ways. That is what love actually looks like. All right, my friend, let me bring this home. Today, we tackle one of the most counterintuitive forms of kindness that there is, the kindness of letting somebody help you. We named the lie that refusing to ask for help is a sign of strength, and we did the harder, braver work of acknowledging that is often a sign of unchecked pride. In part 1, we discussed that we underestimate by about 50% how willing other people are to help us, and we committed to the self-reliance inventory, a real, honest, and most importantly, written look at the physical tasks, emotional load, decisions, and stuck places you've been carrying alone, and who can help you to become unstuck. In part 2, we built the specific ask protocol. 4 components every effective ask needs: the specific ask, a specific time frame, a specific person, and a specific way out. In part 3, we committed to the receiving practice, the practice of actually letting people help once they show up, without sabotaging the help, without flipping the visit, without prepaying with future favors, and without diminishing the love that is being offered to us. I want to close with this. There's somebody in your life right now who would be honored to help you, maybe more than one somebody. They're waiting on the other side of an ask that you have not been brave enough to make. And every day you don't make that ask, you are not protecting them from a burden. You're denying them the joy of getting to love you in a real, tangible, embodied way. So when you ask for help, you're not easing your own load. You're modeling a different way of being human for every person who watches you do it. You're giving the next generation permission to ask. You're giving your kids a template of how to be vulnerable without falling apart. You're giving your friends an invitation to be in a real relationship with you instead of just performing one. Every honest ask that you make is a tiny brick in the foundation of a kinder world. So make the ask, make it specific, make it gracious, and when the yes comes, let yourself receive it. You're not a burden. You never were. You're a human being, and human beings were designed to rely on each other. The world does not need any more lonely heroes pretending to be strong. The world needs you willing to be real, willing to ask, and willing to receive the help that we all need. This is your host, Shola Richards, aka Brother Teresa, and you now know that kindness can't be weak because you just experienced the strength of the Kindness Extremist podcast. Until next time, my friend, the journey to a kinder world continues. Thank you for listening to the Kindness Extremist podcast. I really hope that you enjoyed this episode, and I have one favor to ask of you. If you could kindly hit the subscribe button, leave a rating and a review, not only would that be incredibly kind, but by doing so, you're actively playing a role in growing this movement and ideally getting us one step closer to creating a kinder world. I hope to see you next week for another episode of the Kindness Extremist podcast. Bye for now.